Hey guys, Casey Santana with Chief Entertainment. We are on for Rich Soil Podcast today. We have a special guest, somebody that I've actually been meaning to bring on for a while now. And so welcome, Annie. It's so nice to have you on deck today. How is your day going?
Thanks for having me. My day is going pretty well. It's Friday. I think this is the last commitment before a holiday weekend, and I'm so happy that we finally are getting to chat after months of being busy working moms and rescheduling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Exactly. It's been, I don't know. Did you go to Emerald Cup? I didn't.
No, I didn't. I had been traveling a lot with my family, and I've been traveling a lot for work and been on the road away from the family. And the weekends just been feeling these days are sacred. And I wasn't a judge, so I would have had to like really try to get a ticket. So I didn't. But afterwards, I really wish I had been there because that event totally embodies the reasons that I got into this industry and the part of this industry that I want to help live in this like growing corporatized cannabis world as well as like on a national scale. Because I live in Sonoma County, California. So I am like close to the Emerald Triangle. I'm like 20 minutes from Santa Rosa, where, Emerald Cup was held for many, many years. And part of why I like even wanted to get into this industry was because this is fueling the economy, or was more so here in my backyard.
Yep.
Um,
Yep, you're
but
in the heart. You're up there. Sometimes I, joke with a few people about, oh, I should find a rental somewhere up there because lately, my heart is they stole my heart being part of the Emerald Cup judging experience. I always tell people it's something I can't explain. And like you said, it's a culture, it's a tradition that is thriving because they highlight that and they do a hell of a job with the small amount of people that they have on their team. And so up to them. I know last time I saw you was at Harvest Ball, so that's usually the start to the journey, and that
yeah.
itself is so much fun. Okay, it's Friday. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm going to let you jump into this. Again, I just want to do a light intro. We have Annie Davis on today. She is with Growing Impact, but she is also representing women in the space and wears many different hats. So we're going to get to know a little bit about her and what she can bring to the community as far as service. First thing I always ask my people is, because I really want to break the stigma, and I believe by showing the lifestyle that we have, there's always some sort of healthy routine that most of us have. And so I ask, do you have a morning routine, and does it incorporate any sort of like fitness or sort of body movement?
Well, great question. It's not a morning routine, but I pretty much exercise every day. And like on the other side of my computer screen here is my Peloton. And during the pandemic, I basically rarely left this room, going from working on Zoom to exercising. Yeah. And for me, exercise and cannabis actually serve very similar purposes. They are both ways that I manage my stress and my anxiety. And they're totally, for me, they don't go hand in hand. I do not like to exercise while consuming or while under the influence, but I definitely know people who do, and it's very helpful for them.
Yeah, that would be me.
Good
Part
for
of my pre-workout. It's just always been part of my, I guess, my pre-workout. And, sometimes when I still was working at the office, I would, take a little hit and then take my pre-workout or coffee or almonds, like something along those lines that had the energy boosting, natural type of boosting. And then I always have a great workout. But yeah, post and pre, before and after, that's
in
me.
in morning routine, it's not necessarily, always by choice, but I have to get up every single morning at 7 a.m. and get my kids ready for school. So that just takes activity. That's just physical and mental activity. I feel like that's just a routine that you don't necessarily ask for, but one has. And so no matter how tired you are or not feeling like it, you have to just get up and do it. And I think that's part of what like being a mom, has really taught me and brought out in me. Like just when you think you can't do something or when you think you can't push through kind of whatever it is in life, like most of the time you actually can. Because
Yep.
sometimes you really just fucking have to. Um, like this morning when I didn't sleep well last night and I still had to get up with my kids.
So funny. Me too. My kid went to decided to take nap late, and so that went into waking up at like 12. I think it was almost close to 1, and thinking it was half of their nap. And it was then I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. And so the other one woke up as well and thought it was the same party time.
Oh my
Let
goodness.
back out at 5 and we have to get ready to go to school by 7. So the grumpiness today was extra, but thankfully cannabis helps me be a more patient mom, a more present mom. I can't say enough. I know I consumed at a very young age recreationally, obviously. It wasn't until I became a mom that I did some reflection that I realized that it's really helped me become the person I am, and has made me just very proud to be a woman in this space where at some point I felt like I was very unique and a black sheep in my family and just amongst others because I lived a very corporate life, but also consumed every day and was very athletic and into fitness. And so it wasn't fitting the exact stoner. And so it's like, where do you fit in? And it wasn't until I became a mom that I realized there was many of us many women out there that use this for medicinal purposes. And now that I look back on it, I think it did really mold me to who I am now. And I'm just proud to be able to use my voice and platform to highlight women like yourself and everything that we do in general through this plant.
I'm so glad that you do that, Casey. And we have really similar, I think, stories because I was like, am like formally educated, like went into also the corporate world after getting an MBA, and I also was a daily consumer. And I it was always something for me that I hid, and it was like these two sides to my personality, and one actually supported the other, but I really couldn't share them. And I thought about working in the industry many times between 2007 and 2018 when I finally did. Because I moved out to California from Massachusetts in 2007. So coming here and kind of discovering and becoming part of California culture made me a lot more comfortable with the plant, but I still couldn't kind of reconcile these two things. And when Prop 64 passed and finally, it was legal for adult use in California, for me, that's kind of what made me get off my butt and start working in the industry. But it coincided with being on maternity leave with my second child. And so it was like the combination of remembering and realizing how supportive cannabis was to me as a woman and was becoming to me as a mom. And then like the shifting legal frameworks around cannabis that kind of created and then the pandemic that created an opportunity for me to kind of build a flexible and meaningful career in this industry. But part of my goal is to help to bridge the legacy to the legal and the traditional to the consumers of today, because there is no reason that this plant needs to become commoditized if we really truly continue to include the culture and education in the marketing and sales of these products. And my background's marketing. And so I felt like something that I could bring to this industry was helping kind of the OG and cultivators of the traditional market to navigate the networks of kind of power within corporate America. And I think you would probably understand that for yourself from having worked in corporate banking. It's not necessarily that you are there's not a different level of intelligence, but it's a level of like, how do you navigate the system? How do you navigate the money? How do you navigate the legal aspects?
Yeah, 100%.
And I felt like I could be an in between. I could somehow bridge these worlds, and I wouldn't be necessarily the only person doing that. Hopefully, there will be many of us, but that I was somehow somewhat uniquely positioned, being a daily consumer, being a mom, being somebody who was, had a traditional career, but also like live in a region of the country where traditional cannabis culture has thrived.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Well said. We're going to dive right into that. Actually, that was perfect way for me to jump into your mentor who you decided. I always ask all my guests aside from the morning routine and just seeing if there is a non-negotiable, which you did list, coffee, which I think many of us, across the board listed coffee, and it was always like urban coffee. But some people add meditation. I know for myself, I do like meditation and like a little journaling. Sometimes a stretch, just depends. Like you said, with us moms and having kids, it just, we have to get up a little bit early sometimes for the extra. But tell us who you consider as a mentor for you either today or whoever got you to where you are right now.
Oh, well, I mean, definitely a lot of people. This is so cliche, but really number one, my mom, because my mom was a working mom when I was growing up. She worked part-time, and it always felt like she was fully present for us, but I knew she had a career, and was someone who kind of seamlessly balanced things. And so that's really been an inspiration to me. And then I think, in this industry, I'm really inspired by some of the other female entrepreneurs and CEOs. Nancy Whiteman is someone who really, really inspires me, has been somewhat of a mentor, brought me into a group of executive women in this industry. And we meet monthly in a discussion forum to really support one another in our cannabis careers. And I think this group of women, it started during the pandemic. We span the country, have become really mentors to one another. And which in this industry is so important because things are moving so quickly and nobody has all the knowledge and nobody has all the information. And so it's very, very valuable who one's network is.
Yeah.
And so having kind of access to a network of other women in this industry who want to support each other and want to help each other is one of my favorite parts of working in cannabis. And I truly don't think I could do it without them.
Oh, that's so great to hear from you because it's true. A lot of people find a hard time excelling in the industry. And I think having a good set of a network of women, like you said, that or women or men, whatever your group is, your tribe, that you guys are aligned in the same values and maybe you guys are seeing differences in different things, but you guys are there to either open your eye to a particular trend that's going on, or maybe an experience that you guys have, or just mom life on top of it is one thing to have that sisterhood, but to be in this industry that's, like you said, moving very rapidly, there's a lot of different things. And a lot of people, do complain that it's a male dominated industry. And so having the women to lean on that are feeding your energy and your light towards your goals, I think is super important to have. So I love hearing that from you. Tell us a little bit about your backstory, about how cannabis became part of your life, and then where it led you today with your business and your brand.
Yeah. So I grew up in suburban Boston, about like 15 minutes outside of the city. I lived in New England until I was 27, and that's when I moved out to California. And so my first experience with cannabis was at my summer camp, which was a Jewish overnight camp with my boyfriend at the time. And I don't know where he got it, but it was definitely, so cliche, like by the campfire or like, hiding somewhere around the camp during the summer when we were counselors in training. We were not even fully fledged counselors yet. And that I dated that guy throughout high school. And so through interacting with him, I became a consumer myself. And I never purchased though, during high school. Like I said, I don't know where he got it. And same thing in college. I somehow kind of befriended a couple of guys in my freshman dorm who were daily consumers. And, I was not at the time yet a daily consumer because I had not yet figured out how to actually acquire cannabis, or whatever weed at the time. We did not even use the word cannabis at the time. But I went to college at Yale, and we, every Thursday, these guys and I would get together and we would watch Friends and Survivor, and we called it PPF, Pizza Pot and Friends. And I was like interviewed on another podcast like 2 years ago, and he ended up titling the podcast like Pizza Pot and Friends. And then I lived with those guys after college in Boston, and that's when I through a friend, started acquiring my own cannabis. And throughout high school and college, it was primarily recreational, my consumption. And I think when I lived on my own after college, I began realizing that cannabis was extremely helpful to me with my anxiety and my stress, as well as with insomnia. And I had been struggling with really bad insomnia from when I was about 12 years old. And I had never really kind of connected the two because I never had access to cannabis. So I couldn't kind of like consume it in a medicinal way at home. So I never really noticed that like when I smoked cannabis, I had an easier time sleeping. But after college, I began to realize that, and it became a critical part of my daily routine, and replaced prescription sleep aids, which made me groggy, and other anxiety medication. And so when I moved out to California in 2007, I got a medical card, and was finally able to actually shop for cannabis, knowing what was in it or how it would make me feel, to actually buy strains that would help me sleep and not buy strains that would keep me awake at night. And that's kind of the journey. My journey as a consumer has been primarily using cannabis in the evenings therapeutically. But I also have never really been somebody who's been a fan of alcohol. So, in my late 20s and early 30s, before becoming a mom, I became much more recreational consumer as well, because I'd be out in social settings not wanting to drink, and I started to, consume in those settings. But as I mentioned earlier, it really was becoming a mom that made me decide to shift my career into this industry. And what I'd been doing before cannabis was traditional consumer packaged goods marketing. So like I worked at the Clorox company. It's like CPG. A lot of people talk about how the cannabis, is it a CPG industry? Is it not a CPG industry? It's a product in a package. You sell it through a store. It goes through distribution. It's somewhat of a CPG industry. And then I'd also worked in renewable energy and sustainability in the startup world. So I had this combination of traditional consumer packaged goods marketing experience, but I primarily worked in startup organizations because I like things that move quickly. I like to figure things out. I like situations where you don't have all the information and there's not necessarily a playbook, and you have to kind of learn as you go. And so the combination of those skills plus being a consumer made me think that I could maybe add some value to this industry. And I could help in the marketing and sales strategy for cannabis brands initially. And so that's where I started. I started off working on the Care by Design brand, for a CannaCraft brand here, based in Santa Rosa, right in the kind of early pandemic. Prior to that, I had been doing some consulting work here and there. As a mom of babies at the time, I started working with the Garden Society, another local Sonoma County brand, and helped them to build out a direct consumer program between so that they could educate consumers and then deliver the product to their homes. And I ended up going as well to lead marketing at Flocana for about a year and a half. And after having worked with several California brands and kind of given the nature of the industry in California, as well as having grown up on the East Coast, about a year and a half ago, I shifted my work to be kind of more focused on expansion strategy for brands. Because having grown up in at the time emerging market like Massachusetts, it's now becoming more mature. But knowing the kind of consumer profiles there and how they differ from consumers in California, I thought that I could be helpful to brands in helping them to navigate kind of which markets to expand to and how to do so. So growing Impact My Business, kind of our core expertise is working with not just brands now, but also cannabis brands, contract manufacturers, operators, anyone who's looking to partner with and work with cannabis brands and operators across state lines. I'm working with those kinds of companies to build strategic partnerships in order to help fuel growth, ideally of women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, companies that somehow are offering a unique or differentiated product that is maybe less impactful on the environment. So I generally trying to grow the impact of this industry and also grow it with companies that are driving a positive impact as well.
I love that you tie in your brand's name very well into how you presented that. And I think you touched on a lot is, you're very positive about highlighting what you're driven to do as far as highlighting the roots in our community, but also being a voice for the different things that are driving the industry right now. And so marketing is a huge, huge strategy that I think people undermine and don't understand right now. It's moving very fast. And if you don't always come from a heavy, I want to say business traditional background, that may not be something that you understand fully. And so having people like you who are up there really, representing for women, working moms, and being a voice for the roots of the community is going to be very important for, I think, the East Coast to learn from. I think they have an up right now to learn all the not to do's, and start from there and then extract that out and learn. And you being in the heart of not SoCal, but California, and next to the Emerald Triangle. It sounds like you work with a lot of sun-grown farmers that are feeling aches and pains. I think you can be a very huge asset to the community as far as really educating the East Coast on really a good way to build out a brand. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you. And that's really, I appreciate you saying that, because that really is a huge piece of the value that I do seek to bring to my clients is, I have not worked in this industry for decades. I have been in this industry for about 4 years, but in cannabis years, that's actually a kind of long time in terms of seeing different companies and having worked, since I mostly work as a contractor and consultant. I've now worked with about 20 companies across the cannabis supply chain and country, from a gummy mold manufacturer to a distributor to an ingredient supplier to a tech company to investors to retailers to brands to contract manufacturers, and having a lens, and even one of the largest MSOs in the country. And so having a lens and having kind of been on the inside of a number of these organizations, I have a lot of knowledge and information that can help people to not waste their money and to deploy their limited capital wisely, whether that be helping to connect them to partners, connect them to other consultants, helping to review plans and strategies and help and, ask questions and poke holes. And I think that, of course, one can always try to go it alone, but this industry, kind of is, there is a spirit of collaboration in this industry that I've never felt kind of in any other. And I think that the operators that are going to succeed and the brands and businesses that are going to succeed are going to be the ones that figure out how to work together, because there is not a lot of money in this industry there's not enough to go around. There's not enough smart people to go around. There's not enough money to pay those people. And so you have to figure out how to efficiently deploy your resources. And so that's really what I'm trying to do with my clients and the companies I advise and the other people that I mentor. If I can just give you some piece of information and maybe you can give me something in exchange that's going to make us more competent in this industry, that's going to go, far.
Yeah.
It's just in the same way that money can. So I think information is currency, relationships are currency, and I think smart people know where to find that.
Yeah, I think, we're going to go back to very traditional ways of how to save time, how to save me money is, when you're talking about being a brand. And I think you can do that with everything that you bring to the table. We're going to jump right into this part. What would you say your service is to our community? So you kind of touched on that, but if you can dive in a little bit, let's say I'm just a consumer, or maybe, you do focus on women and I'm looking to maybe apply for one of those social equity type of licensing. Is that something you guys help with, or at least, drive us to that direction? Because that can be extremely intimidating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I will say, actually, no, that area is not an area of expertise for me, because I can certainly help connect people to others that can help them to navigate the licensing process and hopefully help them with some kind of fundraising ideas and strategy. But where I tend to kind of tap in is to an existing organization that already has some structure, some team. They have a head of marketing. They already have somebody doing that job, or maybe a marketing manager. They usually don't have somebody who's doing business development and strategy. And so there's kind of a CEO, there may be a COO, there may be people in certain functional areas. But these are companies that are kind of in growth mode. So they've kind of proven a model. Let's say they're an existing brand in a state, or they're a contract manufacturer and they're from the hemp industry trying to convert into the cannabis industry. I kind of can help them take the next step. If they're thinking about entering a new state, or they're thinking about developing a new business line, or they're trying to figure out, we have, 5 different services we're offering and 3 different types of products, and like which ones are making us money and how do we decide what to do more of. Like I can tap in there to kind of help answer strategic kind of meaty questions that oftentimes the people who are day-to-day running these organizations don't have the time to do and don't have the resources to do. So that's one kind of set of services. And then another set of services would be more business development. And so that really is relationship building, connections, and kind of helping to drive partnership agreements and documentation to close. Many businesses in this industry, like we're just talking about, you want to find partners, you need to find people to collaborate with. But who is the person in the organization who's doing that job? Oftentimes, cannabis companies don't have like a person whose job is like head of partnerships or head of business development. It's oftentimes the CEO or the co-founders or somebody. And so usually what happens is somebody realizes I've got too much on my plate. I've got a bunch of these negotiation conversations going and I need help. And so I'm now kind of playing that role to, I think, 3 or 4 different clients where I've taken over a bucket of business development work that was being done by the CEO, previously. And they're trying to free up their time. But I am known kind of in the industry as a marketer because my background was marketing. What I find in cannabis is like I do some marketing advising. I help companies again to like access the right resources. I will review your plan and help you figure out, are you overspending on something? Like what should you be doing more of that you're not doing today? But I'm not the marketing agency, which actually is useful sometimes because I can kind of vet other resources for my clients and help them to like not hire the wrong agency for, hire the right agency for the right problem at the right price. Which again, when we're talking about limited resources, like that can be valuable if you pay me, for, I don't know, 10 hours of my time to work on a strategy project with you, but you end up saving like, $50,000 because you don't hire the wrong resource. That can make sense.
Yep. I think that's super important in today's market where everybody is just strapped and, finding those leaking faucets in the brand are going to be important, and strategizing where they're spending their time, their money, and their people too that are out there. So that is really exciting and fascinating that you're able to do all that being a mom of 2, right?
2. Yep. Yep. My daughter's turning 5 tomorrow. Right after this podcast, to go pick her up to get her hair done. She wants to go to the salon, so she's getting her hair done.
Oh,
tomorrow's nails.
I love it.
And my son is about to be 8.
Oh, yeah. So my girl is the younger one. So when she gets to that age, I could already see that because the sassiness is already coming out. So that's exciting. You said it was her birthday or?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, happy birthday to her. I hope you guys have a great time. But I think it sounds like you are covering primarily men and women as far as your network, but you do lean in on the women in our industry. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I would say that. I mean, I prefer to work with people who are collaborative and partnership oriented, and all genders can be that way. I do find there is just a little bit more of a spirit of partnership and collaboration amongst women in this industry. But I am a friend of all and can work with everyone. One thing that I do feel strongly about are compliant companies, companies that do business honorably, that pay their bills on time, that treat like their employees and their vendors well, and that are responsible stewards as producers of products and retailers. And so I haven't yet been in a situation where I've had to stop working with a client because I observe such behavior, but I absolutely would. And that's, I think, one of the benefits I find to being a third party and not being an employee. You can walk away. You also have to pay. Also, though, I do require getting paid upfront now because it takes a long fucking time to get paid in this industry. So I don't, even for my most honorable of clients, I generally do require an upfront deposit before starting to work with them.
Yeah, I think, for me, I am an inspiring entrepreneur. And so sometime when it comes to asking for that payment for freelance work, especially in our community. I think maybe women struggle with this more, being that we are more heartfelt, or maybe our emotions are tied into the relationship. And so, it's not always set up front exactly what you're expected for a payment. And then at the end of the day, things go sour. And so I think for me, I'm learning the upfront conversation is extremely important, being very open as far as what you expect and what they expect as a client, and people, like you said, working together. I think what you're doing is great, because there are a lot of downfalls in trying to find a collaborative partnership with somebody. Everybody's got a different value system. Everybody works differently. So I think that that's going to be really crucial that we highlight, because I feel the same way. Asking for that payment right up front, or at least, a deposit. And that's just healthy, creating a healthy business relationship on all realms, I think, for everybody. So I'm glad you touched on that. It's something that I'm learning to be stronger on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that is all the time we have. Appreciate all the extra information that you're touching on, because our industry right now is going through a lot. There's a lot of different aches and pains going from seed to sale, all, from retail, from the farmers, even, just being in the event space. I think they're seeing a change in the budgets just being cut down tremendously. And so thank you again for your time. And I thank you for all the effort that you do for the community, and being a badass woman in this space who represents yourself very well and classy. Um, it's it looks like we can find you on LinkedIn, but you didn't really say much about Growing Impact. Do you want to touch where we can find
You
that
can find me
information?
online at www.growingimpact, all one word, .co. And yeah, and LinkedIn as well. And Casey, I feel the same about you. Thanks for all that you do to uplift women and professionals in this space. And I look forward to the next time I see you again in person.
Yes, yes. Harvest Ball is not too far around, so it'll probably be then, since I'm down here and you're up there. But between you and I think we're gonna make our community really thrive the best that we can at the capacity that we can reach. And so I'm excited for you and excited to see where you guys go. That's it for us here. Thank you again, Annie. I appreciate you. You enjoy your Memorial weekend and your birthday, your baby girl's birthday.
Thank you. Take care.